Welcome. On behalf of the Ford Meade Alliance, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's learning session. We are recording today's session, which will go up on the FMA's YouTube channel. So if you know someone who couldn't make it today or would benefit from hearing our discussion, please share the link with them when it's available. My name is Tim O'Farrell, and I'm the General Manager of the Fort Meade Alliance. Today, I'm joined by Jen Munt, our Education and Workforce Development Director.
Thanks for the introduction, Tim. As many of you know, the FMA published a white paper in fall of 2020 about the five top challenges in securing a cybersecurity IT workforce pipeline. We convened working groups this past spring and then held a public forum to discuss the findings of the paper and of the working groups. During the forum, we heard about the many existing programs and efforts to fill the cyber pipeline, as well as areas where gaps still exist. Our goal today is to foster ideas on where to fill the gaps. First, though, we need to learn about existing efforts in our region. Our Cyber Pipeline Learning Series was created to address the continuing challenges industry and education face in creating meaningful pathways to careers in cybersecurity and IT. We kicked off this three-part learning series in August with a session focused on work-based learning opportunities. And then we held a second session in October that focused on inspiring the next generation of cyber workers. Today is our final session, which focuses on one of the most important elements of widening the cyber pipeline: recruiting and training a diverse workforce. We're going to hear from practitioners about the work they're doing, the best practices they're implementing, and the ongoing challenges they face.
Today, we will hear from three organizations that have found success in recruiting and training a diverse cyber workforce. First, we are joined by Angelo Thalassanides, Assistant Dean for the School of Science, Technology, and Education at Anne Arundel Community College, Kendra Parlock, the Executive Director of Empower Maryland, and Tim Miles, VP, MPA, USG, STA account for the National Intelligence Community Business Unit of SAIC. It was a mouthful.
We're going to start with each of our panelists giving their very brief elevator pitch about the programs they're here to speak about today. Angelo, can you kick us off by telling us a bit about the various efforts in AACC to recruit diverse students into computer science, IT, and cybersecurity?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We have been focusing over the past few years in exposing students, high school students, especially in the North County, to these areas like cybersecurity, computer science, mechatronics. But one of the major changes that we're experiencing right now is we recently became accredited by ABET. We're the one of the two first community colleges that their cybersecurity program at the associate's level became accredited by ABET. And one of the criteria there was teamwork. So that is something that we are introducing starting from the recruitment phase all the way throughout the curriculum. To be able to address the needs that employers will have in the future.
Thank you for that introduction, Angelo. So next up, we want to hear from Kendra about Empower and their efforts.
Thanks, Tim. Pleasure to be here. Empower is a national nonprofit, and we're rooted in community and committed to advancing IT and cyber careers for those in the most under-resourced communities. We offer free IT, cyber, and cloud computing training. We've trained more than 4,000 veterans and young adults across the country since 2010. And we also offer training through the Department of Defense Skill Bridge program. Our advanced cybersecurity program is a 12-week on-the-job and professional development program. A 14-week program followed by a 12-week internship. And with that training and internship, the student is equipped with the skills and and certifications needed to launch their career in cyber. And we are able to accomplish this through our partnerships with employer partners across the state and country. I'm really excited to announce that as a part of its mission to recruit diverse talent to cybersecurity workforce, Empower is now partnered with the Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We were awarded $1 million to bring a more diverse talent to the cybersecurity workforce.
Thanks, Kendra. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Finally, Tim Miles is going to share a bit with us about SAIC's efforts, and in particular, their experience this past summer hiring a community college student into an internship position.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks to both you and Tim for having me on today. I really appreciate the opportunity. As Jen was saying, we have taken a very unique path to hire technical talent. As you are all aware, COVID has changed things. A lot of folks that are graduating from college now don't want to go through the security process that our customers require. A lot of folks are looking at jobs with Amazon and Google and others that are frankly allowing them to do some very interesting technology and allowing them to work from home in many cases. So it's been a challenge to try to find the best and brightest talent and get them to consider the work that we do, consider the clearance process and go through that. And what we've been able to do, and with FMA's help this summer, we hired a young lady out of Howard Community College who was studying computer science and who had a goal of working in this industry, getting cleared, and then ultimately moving over to a 4-year school to complete her education, and then coming back to SAIC or another company for that matter, to work full-time on some of the missions that we support. And that has been an extremely good experience, not only for SAIC, but also for the intern. It has been a tremendous effort. In fact, she is still here with us now. She's in the office today, as a matter of fact, and will continue to work for us and hopefully support us for the next 2 years as she completes her 4-year degree. And hopefully after that is all done and completed, she will come back and join us as a full-time employee with her clearance in place. So again, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Well, thank you, Tim. And I applaud you for looking and fostering talent even in the high school and the younger ages, because we've got to start building the pipeline and relevance earlier, which is a big part of what our discussion is today. So we have a number of questions from the panel about successes and challenges each of you have faced along the way. I want to invite any attendees to submit questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom controls. Jen's going to monitor the Q&A, and we'll be sure to address some of those questions towards the end. But when we talk about diversity, most folks immediately think about race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. To start off, I'll start with you, Tim. I'll go back to the employers. Could you, and I want to hear from all our panelists, could you each speak to what other forms of diversity are important to consider when we look to fill gaps in this cyber workforce pipeline? So Tim, I'll start with you.
Sure, that's a great question. One of the things that I think needs to be considered is not only the education that the students are looking at and they're pursuing, but also looking at their interests. You know, one of the things that we are concerned about, or I guess trying to obtain, are students that have a creative mind, have interests that expand or are outside of just the computer science and the cyber realm. Can they think strategically? Are they curious? Are they able to do things and think differently? And are they able to step in and look at a problem and solve it from a different perspective? And in doing that and considering those questions, we have started to look again at community colleges and younger folks that have different skills than some of our typical workforce might have. And it has opened our eyes to find new types of talent, new types of skills. And it's just been a real benefit. this intern that we have is not somebody that that we probably would have typically recruited. Her interests lie in a number of areas, and that has made us think differently about the talent in many ways that I've already addressed. So we're learning a lot through this experience, and I think we're going to continue to learn a lot, and it's going to continue to benefit us down the road as we look for new talent.
Okay. Well, Kendra, let's turn to you. You work with a lot of employers, and why is it important they're looking at other forms of diversity? What are those other forms of diversity that they need to be looking at that you're seeing from the employer conversations you're having?
Sure. You're right, with the demand, so great in terms of all of the unfilled cyber security positions in the nation. I think the last statistic I had, there are over 400,000 unfilled cyber positions in the country. So absolutely that our employer partners, the hiring managers, are looking at talent in places that they hadn't normally looked, and always looking to diversify that talent pipeline. We did mention gender, so obviously we're looking to bring more women of color to tech, IT, and cyber. And I think those stats are that only about a quarter, 25% of cyber roles are filled by women, and it declined over the past year, actually. So at Empower specifically, we're intentional about recruiting women, designing programming and outreach for our women. We have a goal to achieve 40% women trainees by 2022, or 40 by 22 initiative. So gender, and then diversity in experience, which has also been touched on, and you get that with prioritizing the hiring of transitioning military veterans who bring a wealth of experience, but not always a four-year degree, and then experience in terms of education, recognizing that the path to success may not always include that four-year degree. Not everyone, has that opportunity, but we do know that there are so many opportunities within IT and cyber that don't require a degree, but can be achieved through certifications.
Excellent. I love the word intentional in there in your efforts, and appreciate and applaud those. So, Angela, you have a very broad pool of students at the community college level. When you use the term diversity, you can look very closely to your student population and seeing it in all facets. And so what forms of diversity are you seeing coming through that we need to be really looking at for this cyber workforce?
I'd like to take it one step further back. It's to look who makes it into a technology field. And right now what we have found is that there is an equity gap on accessing emerging technologies. If you don't expose kids across different demographics to emerging technologies, so you can plug the seed in their brain that says, oh, that's something I can do for a living. It looks like fun, and I can do it for a living. You're not going to get that inflow of students to reach the community college, to reach any education institution. So what we're seeing is that certain areas, certain students may have access to those emerging technologies, and I'm thinking of cognitive computing. I'm thinking of even simple things like the cell phone, and what are the things that we can do around that, and how intelligent this thing can actually be. That exposure is going to increase who we're getting, and we're excluding a number of students because we didn't catch them at an early stage. But then the ones that we are getting, if we are to focus on one characteristic, and it goes beyond race, it goes beyond sex, I would like to focus on something that we don't talk enough about. First generation, and Kendra, please forgive me, just thinking, but that applies also to you. First generation college students. And what are the non-technical skills that we need to be also focusing on? So those are the two areas that we are working on. Those are the two areas that we sense need help.
Let's pull on, Angela, you touched on a couple important things there, and let's pull on the threads a little bit. It may seem obvious, especially those who are interested in today's discussion, they're listening now, and among the three of you, that diversity is important, but why is it important to incorporate greater diversity in this workforce? What are the benefits to the community and ultimately our nation when we have a diverse, engaged cybersecurity mission? Kendra, I'd like to hear from you first. Like, why is it important?
Yeah, we can't ignore diversity when it comes to cyber. We know that the U.S. leads the world in cyber innovation, but there are many countries just on our coattails. And so if we really want to retain our global position as a leader in cybersecurity, we must really get a hold of like all of the creativity, intelligence, ingenuity from people from all backgrounds, all zip codes, all hairstyles and the way people wear their clothes. And we know, I love data, I love stats, and the stats are that companies that, using the word again, intentional about hiring, retaining, developing diverse talent are 35% more likely to outperform their competitors. So it just makes great business sense, right? To bring diversity, to bring people from all cultures, races, genders, generations to your organization for these new ideas and solutions. And definitely with Empower and how we interact with our employer partners, there's always at least one person in an organization or a team of people that rise to the top in terms of really championing diversity in their organization. And it's those people that just don't have the appetite for diversity, but have like this real hunger for diversifying their workforce that makes a difference. And again, we know that the best ideas come from the most diverse teams.
Could you repeat that 35% stat? That's a powerful stat.
Yes, that companies that are intentional about hiring, retaining, and developing diverse talent are 35% more likely to outperform their competitors.
That's fantastic. And Angela, I saw you shaking your head a lot, like as she was speaking. So I'd love to hear you add on to some of her comments and your thoughts about the importance.
On the educational side, we're not here for the money. We're in a mission. We're passionate, and we have reached the point that we said we cannot have a nation that has two speeds. We cannot be progressing and just leaving people behind us and people that fell through the cracks, that they didn't make it. We need to somehow build fail-safe processes and capture those free thinking minds. Diversity is something that is truly required to help us with innovation, as well as to help us prevent things that happened, for example, in the 90s, like Enron, MCI, ethics, and how can we truly move forward together in a more constructive way. The phrase that keeps coming into my mind is the pace of innovation. We need to keep pushing and increasing the pace of innovation strategically as a nation. And to do that, we need diversity. We need people that think differently. Even the person that failed through high school, be able to capture their mind. Personally, I was never a good student in high school. I never found my calling in high school. If it wasn't for luck, I would perhaps be doing something else. And suddenly in college, I found my love. How can we put that spark, put that light at the end of the tunnel for many of our young kids, the next generation, so they know what they can do?
That's fantastic. Now, Tim, you sit essentially as the recipient of the talent that these two organizations trying to deliver, but more importantly, you can talk about the importance of it is both not only to your company to be successful with the percentages that Kendra talked about, but also you support a pretty important mission. So how important is diversity when you guys are looking at your workforce, and why?
It's extremely important. So as I said earlier, one of the things that we look at when we're looking for new talent is we're looking for creativity and the ability to think outside of the box and find new solutions. Because as Angelo said, and as Kendra touched on, technology is changing very, very rapidly. 10, 15 years ago, if I was looking for a software engineer, the first thing I would have done is gone through a resume and determined whether or not they had C++ experience and Java and a couple of other languages. Now, when I'm looking for a good engineer, not software engineer, but an engineer, someone who can help with cyber or anything else regarding that for our customers, can that person think critically? Can that person bring new skills and new capabilities? So, for example, I might be looking for somebody that has gaming experience or somebody who has, artificial intelligence experience, but virtual reality, augmented reality experience. Those are things that our customer may not necessarily be using today, but down the road, they're going to have to, because that's where the world is going. That's where our threats are going. That's where our adversaries are going. So we have to stay in front of that. And the only way to do that is to find talent that can, that it has multiple interests and then can get involved and get their hands dirty in all of these different things and help us as a company, but also as a country, get in front of those threats and develop capabilities to thwart those threats. And that's what we've been doing more and more. It's hard to overcome when you have a bunch of folks that have been traditionally recruiting a very specific way for a very specific type of skill set. Getting people to think differently is not easy. But we've seen the talent change, and we've seen that there is a lot of good talent in very untraditional places. And if you're willing to turn over some rocks and find it, you will be able to get it and you will be able to keep it because there's a lot of things that we can offer in terms of engaging them, getting their interest, and giving them projects where they can go off and show us how things can be done differently. And it's really benefited us.
You touched on a couple like key things there, especially with the breadth of technology out there. The organizations at Fort Meade, they're going to have to operate in the place where most people are, and that's on your devices and in those gaming platforms and in these spaces that the global mass is operating in. And you see the world becoming smaller and smaller in some sense as the places we're all congregating in, but in incredible numbers. So I can understand why that native technologist, to borrow a term that Marmy McMahon, our friend from the Anne Arundel County Public Schools, uses often, would be valuable for you to bring in, because they're using the device a way you wouldn't have thought to use it. So that brings me to you, Angelo. How are you finding these folks? Right now, I'm not saying that Tim is facing this particularly, but we hear from our members that we have an employment crisis beyond just the 20,000 jobs that you can look up on CyberSeek and say an identifier short here. We have the Great Resignation happening. We have a lot of other pressures on the hiring market, the commercial sector. I think, Tim, you touched on it a little bit earlier. Commercial sector is easier for people to move into than some of the work here. So we need more people here. We all understand diversity is important. So how are you finding these diverse people for your training and for these, ultimately, these opportunities that will be waiting for them in companies like Tim's?
There is no silver bullet. And the name of the game is exactly what the Ford Meade Alliance is doing. We need to be forming collaborations, and we need to be talking to each other. We, on the educational side, we cannot be solving the problems that corporations are having. We need to work together on that end. We also need, and we have started working with AACPS very closely in developing new curriculum to expose students to fun things. What was, me and Tim were about the same age. Why did we get into the IT world? Because back then, a PC was something very rare. Now you go into every single home and you do see a computer. So we have access to technology, and there is nothing mystical about it. There is nothing exciting about it. And yet, if you start looking at emerging technologies, and I'll bring up a chatbot, training a chatbot, which these days it's very easy, but it's beautiful. You do that at the middle school level, you have created a feeder of the next generation of technologies, which may not be your traditional programmers. They may be thinking, I try to understand quantum computing. My brain was still thinking of bits and bytes and zeros and ones and Boolean algebra. So hopefully the next generation, and that's part of the diverse way of thinking, they can be, their minds may be more open to the emerging technology, and they will be able to once exposed to that, they may be able to find an interest and grow within it. So talking to corporations is one thing to understand where things are going. We don't have all the answers. We know our curriculum and we're adopting it, but we need the involvement of corporations, to advisory boards, to steering committees, to helping us understand what is going on, and yet also reach out through seminars, through classroom activities, through summer camps, through even internships at the high school level, to expose the students to what is out there. And I love the idea of reaching out to students from the performing arts, because this whole thing about Internet of Things and how it is being used in sports, in performing arts, they may be applying certain things way more than what we can possibly imagine. And we can then have those conversations of, okay, what are we sharing? Next time that my son is going to fly a game, a flight simulator, is he giving his psychometrics in a way? And is there a way that somebody's maybe capturing? So when my son grows up and becomes a fighter pilot, somebody will have a profile. I mean, we cannot conceive of what threats there may be out there.
Mm-hmm. You said there's no secret ingredient, but there does seem to be a mandatory element, and that is getting to them younger, so we have more exposure to them. But Kendra, is there a secret sauce that you're seeing out there and helping you attract? And what strategies is that sauce being made with to get people into your programs or other programs that you think is really insightful and successful?
Yeah, it's for us, it's about that fundamental, deep community outreach and touch. So we are partnered, with community associations, workforce development boards, local government, and we have trained staff who out there in the community identifying people who would benefit from a high-paying career in IT and cyber. And through that work, again, our mission is, to connect people from underserved communities. We are, over 80% of the people that we serve are people of color. Almost a third are women. So we've seen much success in that type of outreach. But really, the secret sauce is, in the partnership, as Angelo mentioned, what we do, the training, the certifications is all provided free to those we serve. So, we're looking to government, to philanthropy, to corporate foundations to help fund this really important work. And it almost seems, like a no-brainer in that we know that, we can, there's so many talented people from untapped communities here, and the need is so great for diverse talent, and there's so many unfilled jobs. So sometimes it just seems like a no-brainer that people would want to invest in the work that Empower and others do.
Okay. Well, Tim, you've talked about your need for the diverse, but where are you finding the talent now? That, especially where you find the talent you didn't think you would be finding it years before.
So that's a great question. And I would just say we're finding it at the community college level. And I just want to touch on something that both Kendra and Angelo said. Partnerships between corporations like SAIC and the community colleges is extremely important. One, to help find that talent, but also to help develop talent that we need. I'm very fortunate. My wife actually works at Frederick Community College. And I guess about 7 or 8 years ago, the director of the computing department came to me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about developing a cyber program. Given your experience, given what you do for a living, would you be willing to help, us formulate something?" So I had the good fortune of working with him and doing an analysis of what they already had in place and made some recommendations. And now that cyber program has really taken off, and they are, and I don't know if other community colleges within the state of Maryland are doing the same. I suspect they are, but Frederick Community College each year participates in the Mid-Atlantic Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition against schools like University of Maryland, UMBC, Towson University, and others. And as a result of that, they're developing some incredible talent. Those folks are leaving community college after 2 years. They're going to work for our client down here. They're working for other government agencies. They're coming to SAIC. They're coming to our competitors, and they're making a difference. The talent, again, the young lady that we hired this year as an intern has talents and skills that none of our other employees have. And she has made us think differently. As I said earlier, we are now able to get her cleared. It takes a 2-year process, as you know. When she completes her additional 2 years at UMBC, she's going to walk out of UMBC with a TSSCI clearance, is going to be able to go to work for anybody and start making a living and start making a real impact beyond what she's already doing. That talent exists at all of our community colleges. If we, and I don't want to give my secret sauce away, but SAIC is doing this across the board now. We're looking at community colleges and high schools and other places where we can find that talent. We're not going to just the traditional 4-year schools. And I'm sorry, PG West, because I know being at University of Maryland, you probably don't want to hear that, but it's important that we look at that talent, because it's valuable, and it can benefit us and our customers immediately if we're willing to tap it.
I applaud you again with the community college. So I think, Angelo, I'd like to hear from you next about your thoughts.
I just want to say one thing. what Kendra is doing, what her organization is doing, what Year Up is doing, it is an amazing work. And we, from the community college, we need to be collaborating more with organizations like Kendra's. And I didn't mention it before, and I wanted to apologize. Again, there is no silver bullet. We need to all talk to each other and somehow help those students use their, and I'm going to use a very delicate word, prior learning assessment. We have been talking about high school students, but that's not all. You also have career switchers that they have a tremendous wealth of transferable skills that they can bring over. And the more that we see technology being integrated in other fields, the more value these people they will be bringing, and we should make that easy. So we should make it transparent and easy that Kendra's students, if they want to go and get a degree, an associate's degree from our, in this case, they can easily transfer and get credit for the knowledge and experience. And when our students go into the workforce, or if our students have been working in parallel as they were finishing up their degree, when they move on to the next step, which is the bachelor's, some of that work experience be counted towards their degrees. So we have plenty of room to improve into how the educational system collaborates with everyone.
Well, Kendra, on that note, then, what kind of, do your students leave a program with certifications? Profile one of your graduates for us.
Sure. So, so we're seeing the majority of our graduates come in through our foundational technology program, and they, through that foundational program, they're getting the CompTIA certification. So the A+, the ITF, as well as the Google support modules. And then from there, they can move on to our advanced training programs. The next one being in cyber, where again, the CompTIA certifications, as well as Linux Plus. And then we also are offering cloud computing, our certifications in cloud computing with AWS. So yeah, opportunities to receive multiple certifications. Again, you know, that's completely free to the student, to the trainee.
Well, Tim, I want to go back to you then. You talked about this intern. We've got a couple questions around the profile of this intern. One is, what made you consider this high school? Was it the experience portion of it? And then we also have a question is, you're taking this intern from high school into up through the pipeline. How did you manage that clearance process? What did you do with them during the years that they're in the process of the clearance?
So great questions. So let me address the first one regarding her qualifications. She was graduating from Howard Community College with a degree, or an AA degree, in computer science. What was really interesting, though, is that she was involved in a number of different activities in addition to that. She was part of the student life program over there. So she had the ability to communicate effectively, right? She had the ability to meet and greet others and answer questions and challenge others. That was a big part of why we brought her in. Another aspect of her talent was she is an artist. And so there is that creative ability that she has to think outside the box and do things differently. We thought that was extremely important. We didn't want somebody who was just strictly an engineer who needed a very specific and a very structured process. We wanted someone who could think outside of that. The other thing that really interested us was she spent a lot of time in the retail market, working for different stores and restaurants. We thought that was great, again, not only from a communication perspective, but also you have to be trusted to work in a retail environment. You have to be able to handle money. You have to be able to handle customers. All of those things are important. So we thought when you take all of that combined experience and you look at the whole of it, we just thought she was an exceptional candidate. The clearance process is a little more challenging, I'll be honest. Finding a contract and finding a contracting officer in the Corps that is willing to take that risk and clear an individual has been challenging. Our intern also struggled a little bit with filling out the forms that are required. As you know, it's not an easy process. It's somewhat rigorous. But when we explained how valuable the clearance can be and how important it is over time to have it, she gladly decided to go ahead and fill out the work. In the end, we are still working with the government to find a contract that will allow her to be sponsored. And I'll be honest, we may not actually have it up here at this client. We may wind up using one of our other clients that is a little more willing to clear folks like this. But I don't think that will be an issue. I firmly believe we will have that opportunity. She'll walk out of UMBC in 2 years when she graduates with that clearance, and we'll be able to hit the ground running on day one.
Yeah, there's two sides. There's both the certification and the training side, and there's that experience side. And what you're doing with this student solves both of them. And hopefully, you can find a place for her, for the customer up here, because that's obviously important to the Fort Meade Alliance in our community. But we so applaud you for bringing more people to this opportunity. And that's the phrase we use quite often: bring more people to this opportunity. We're getting up against our time here, and I think it's really important. I want to go to Kendra and Angelo. I want to ask you, if you could talk to industry, what do you want them to understand as they look and to recruit and train a diverse workforce from your perspective, from the people that you represent? What do you want industry to know? Kendra, why don't you start?
Oh, there's so many things that we want people to know, but one is don't overlook people. Really check your biases. Check the misperceptions, and so really work to create a culture in your organization where the mind shift is shifting, where you can shift the mindset around people from non-traditional educational backgrounds to bring them into your pipeline. Really be thinking about inclusive leadership, establishing accountability for inclusivity. Also making sure that you can encourage authenticity, that you have a culture where a person can bring their whole selves to work. And then making sure that there are opportunities for women to tap into network, to get exposure and additional training, and always be promoting additional training and advancement.
I love that. Angelo, what do you want industry to understand about?
No matter how good we are, we still need industry's help. We still need to look into apprenticeships. I cannot remember which community college it is, but they're working, I think, with AT&T, and they have a pipeline of about 30-40 students, at the end of which they get the degree, but they also get their clearance. And it is invaluable, and there is no way that we can replace an apprenticeship model. So there is great opportunity there to help us not just bridge the skills gap, but also the soft skills gap through programs like that.
That program actually is with Howard Community College, and the Fort Meade Alliance is fortunate to be a partner with them on that grant. So we recognize, much like we are partners with Anne Arundel Community College and CCBC and Howard with the STEM Core program. And then obviously we partner with all three of those community colleges on many opportunities. I see Ed Roberts is on here as well. He knows that we work with him and his cyber folks quite a bit. You know, Tim, they want to produce the workforce that you need, and they want you to hire these young folks and folks of all ages and backgrounds into your companies, because they know you are the opportunities that will provide, you know, wealth and life and balance for them. So what do you want the educators to understand about when you're looking for that diverse talent? What's important for them to know as far as like the challenges and the goals that you have as an employer?
That's a great question. I think, well, one is that corporations don't have all the answers, right? We sometimes don't know what we need right away until it's almost too late. So oftentimes we need the community colleges. There has to be a partnership between industry and the community colleges, four-year schools, and other types of training providers. I think it's important to, one, for the community colleges to understand the kinds of things that we as a corporation need from a talent perspective and what our customers are asking for from us. But at the same time, we don't always understand and know what is available in terms of training and education and the types of skills that some of these students have. So I think it's really important, again, that a partnership is formed and it's strengthened, and there's a lot of communication that takes place between the two over time, because the more communication there is, the more we understand in terms of what is out there, in terms of students, their skills, their education, the curriculum that is being offered. We can better prepare ourselves to look for those folks. But at the same time, I think we can also help the schools understand, you know, there might be a better way or a different technology or something else that you might want to look at as part of your cyber program, because we know our customers are going to be concerned about this in 2 to 3 years. And if it's better to get out in front of this now, so why don't you change your curriculum to deliver that talent and deliver those skills to us? This is not going to go away. This problem is going to exist for a long time. And the more we can tap into each other, the more we can help each other and get those lines of communication open, the better it's going to serve all of us and our customers and keep our country safe.
Well, I can speak to many of our partners on here, including our community colleges and UMGC. You mentioned PG before. PG will also probably tell you that they're about the continuum as well. So they're touching them like our community college partners all through their life cycle of their career and their learning and growth. But as we wrap up here, what I'd really like to hear from you are, what are those steps we must ensure to take care of now that's going to incorporate greater diversity into our workforce in the future? What must we do now? And let me start with you, Angela.
We need, on our end, we need to do immediately 2 things. Learn how to work with organizations like Kendra's and improve those. The other one is in many cases, we really need the help of corporations to go and expose what is available out there to the middle school and high schools. It would be nice if we can put a roadshow together jointly and start planting that seed into kids' minds. If we don't do it at an early phase, we're going to be playing catch up. So that roadshow, I think it's important. We're struggling with that concept in fields like, for example, mechatronics. or Industry 4.0. There is a great need in our area, but students don't even know about those fields. So it's the lack of knowledge of what is needed that needs to be communicated.
I love how you've been very consistent on that, and I appreciate that, Angela. Kendra, let me turn to you. What must be done now? What are those first steps we must take?
I think going back to, the partnerships that if you want a diverse pipeline, you really need to connect with diverse partners and not going to just the same places to identify talent, but really working with, all of your teams, not just the HR teams, to think about developing new relationships and how to use your existing ones better. Really, thinking about creative models, innovative models for employment, apprenticeships in IT and cyber being one of them. That is where the partnership, is between, the training provider, the employer, and the apprentice. The commitment to the mentoring, the ongoing training, and Angela, you talked about your first time college students in Empower. We also like to tell you first time the person or their family to be professionals, to be tech professionals, and recognizing that there's a lot that comes with that beyond just the training and the certifications, but the professional development, the coaching, the mentoring, and being committed to that.
Well, thank you. And Tim, I'll give you the last word.
Thanks. I think there's a couple of things that can be done. One is to consider the talent that you haven't traditionally considered. Again, community colleges are full of talented individuals, and I think it's an untapped resource. And I think if we do more, we can help ourselves and help our customers. The other part of that is, I think if we can convince our customers that a lot of the work that we do for them can be done at an unclassified level, there is a greater opportunity to utilize and take advantage of some of this talent right now that's not cleared, and it'll continue to benefit both us and our customers for a long, long time. We can get those folks cleared while they're still supporting the customer, and they can get cleared while they're completing their education, if that's what they desire to do. The 2 years that they get out of a community college may very well be enough. But I think we have to start thinking that not everyone needs a 4-year degree. Not everyone has to have the traditional computer science skill set. There are other capabilities that our customers need that they don't even know about, that we can tap into using the community colleges that we have access to.
Thank you. I want to thank all three of you, Tim, Angela, Kendra. I really appreciate you spending this hour with us. We've enjoyed the conversation. We've enjoyed the insights, and hopefully for those who are watching it now and those who will watch in the future, they're going to take something away, some action that they can incorporate within their own organizations that's going to help us work on this challenge of creating a more broad, diverse workforce. Because it's obvious that without it, we're not going to have the supply, we're not going to have the ideas, and we're not going to have the solutions to many of the challenges that we're facing. So again, to the three of you, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This officially wraps our Cyber Pipeline Learning Series, but there are lots of upcoming FMA events. So please, I encourage you to go to the Fort Meade Alliance website where you can take a look at our calendar and stay in touch. We appreciate you spending your lunch hour with us. Everyone have a great weekend.